So Jussie Smollett is appealing his conviction and hoping not to go back to jail. Here's local news covering it.
Good morning. Well, Jussie Smollett's legal challenges continue as an Illinois appeals court. Here's oral arguments today that the former Empire TV star's conviction for staging a racist, homophobic attack on himself back in 2019 and then lying to police about it should be thrown out. Now, in the lengthy written appeal, Smollett's attorneys claimed that his conviction violated his Fifth Amendment rights against double jeopardy. You may know that double jeopardy is a legal protection which keeps people from being punished for the same crime twice. The special prosecutor disagreed.
So Jussie Smollett's appeal hinges on the Fifth Amendment's prohibition against double jeopardy. That essentially means you can't be punished for the same crime twice. So, as always, let's start with the facts. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, Jussie Smollett was found guilty of staging a hate crime against himself, and he was sentenced to 150 days in jail and 2.5 years of probation. Now, his lawyers are appealing the ruling, which is being heard this week. So first, let's talk about what happened. On January 29th, 2019, actor Jussie Smollett reported being attacked by two men on a Chicago street at 2 a.m. in the morning. Now, it's important to understand that this was one of the coldest nights on record in Chicago. Here's a news report.
I'm Brant Miller. Here's the overnight update of the forecast on NBCChicago.com. You could still see a couple of flurries tomorrow. Look at that air temperature. 1 below zero for the high temperature. Tomorrow night into Wednesday morning, 23 below. Not wind chill, air temperature. Wednesday's high temperature, 15 below zero. 25 below the air temperature Wednesday night into Thursday. Dangerous cold. Check on your neighbors.
Now, after an exhaustive police investigation, the police found that Jussie had hired two men to stage a hate crime against himself, and he actually paid them with a check. Now, Jussie was eventually charged with filing a false police report, and he was arrested by the Chicago Police Department. The elected prosecutor, Kim Foxx, who was close personal friends with the Smollett family, messaged the Smolletts, advising Jussie to be quiet and stay consistent.
Show that Smollett's sister and Foxx were in communication, and Foxx says, your brother should be fine as long as he stays consistent. How does she stay in the job after this?
Now, after that revelation that the elected prosecutor was helping the defendant try to stay out of trouble, on February 19th, 2019, State's Attorney Kim Foxx recused herself.
And the controversial Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx recused herself. Her office issued this statement. Out of an abundance of caution, the decision to recuse herself was made to address potential questions of impartiality based upon familiarity with potential witnesses in this case. And there was confirmation that Smollett pleaded no contest back in 2007 in Los Angeles to a DUI, providing false information to police and driving without a license.
So now, since Kim Foxx, the elected DA, recused herself from the case, she couldn't have anything to do with it. Under state law, her entire office wasn't able to prosecute Smollett because every one of the deputy and assistant prosecutors obtained their authority to prosecute defendants from Foxx. So Foxx's legal team advised her that essentially, the office is done, and we can't do anything with the Smollett case. Check it out.
The supervisor of the Criminal Appeals Division looked at the legal angle and wrote to office brass, my conclusion from all of these authorities is that while the state's attorney has the complete discretion to recuse herself from any matter, she cannot simply direct someone, even the first assistant, to act in her stead.
A real recusal under Illinois law means that the case would be in somebody else's hands, outside of that office, outside of her, and that's not what happened.
So what did Kim Foxx do? Well, she simply ignored the law. Foxx actually went as far as to create a fake position and appoint one of her first deputies to that position to prosecute Smollett. Kim Foxx's office on March 26, 2019 dropped all the charges against Smollett, and then she claimed that, hey, 57 other cases like Smollett's have also been dropped in the past. $10,000 fine that she ordered Smollett to pay for restitution was all that she can get back. It was the maximum. That Smollett had no criminal background, but we know that's false because of the California DWI case, and that the evidence wasn't strong enough to obtain a conviction. So these were the reasons why Kim Foxx said, hey, we're just going to drop all the charges and just get the $10,000 back. Now, after an investigation by the court, they found that each one of the reasons that Kim Foxx gave us, the reasons why that she didn't prosecute Jussie Smollett, was actually all lies. Here are the receipts.
The report found misleading and false statements by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, like there were 5,700 similar cases, but the special prosecutor found few examples of similar cases, that $10,000 would be the maximum he could be asked to pay but Smollett could be forced to pay restitution to the city. That Smollett had no criminal background was not true. He had a DUI in which he lied and got 24 months probation. And that there were evidentiary problems with the case. But the special prosecutor found in interviews, like an interview Kim Foxx did with ABC 7, where she said they had a solid case against Smollett.
I cannot ask Mr. Smollett to forfeit his $10,000 bond if I didn't believe we could meet our ethical burden in this case.
Now, after the dismissal, Jussie then made a public statement saying exactly what Kim Foxx had advised him to say earlier. Stay consistent.
To know that not for a moment was it in vain. I've been truthful and consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I've been accused of.
So the fix was in, and Jussie was going to walk free. Now, the deal between the defense team and the state's attorney's office was that they drop all the charges, Smollett would perform something like 2 days of community service, and that he would forfeit his $10,000 bond. Now, this also allowed Smollett to be able to claim his innocence, since he didn't have to plead to anything, and the case was essentially dismissed. Now, here is Jussie Smollett's lawyer claiming that there was absolutely no deal, and Jussie just gave the money to the prosecutor's office in the city because he's a good person. Check it out.
Handling the case.
Now, the prosecutor's office says that the charges were dropped in exchange for your client's agreement to forfeit $10,000 that he had paid in a bond and to do community service. Is that correct? Were those conditions on his dismissal of charges?
There were no conditions, and obviously there was no plea. There was no agreement in place. They did want him to forfeit the bond, and that's something that we discussed with him, and he initially struggled with because he didn't want the perception to be that he had done anything wrong. But at the end of the day, forfeiting $10,000 versus putting your life on hold for a year was a small cost to pay.
So Jussie walked free, and there was no deal, and it was all good in the world. But now the court system stepped in. See, Foxx didn't have any legal authority to make any deal, remember? She just made up a position and let Smollett walk free without any legal authority. But the court stepped in and said, hold on a second. This is not the way it should go.
Police investigation and grand jury indictments against Smollett for manufacturing a hate crime. State's Attorney Foxx recused herself from the case and then dropped the charges. Today, veteran County Judge Michael Tooman unleashing this rabid order against Foxx, suggesting her communication with Smollett's family and friends might also be indicative of bias. Tooman concluding Foxx ignored standard recusal procedures by turning over the case to a top assistant. His appointment was to an entity that did not exist.
This really takes this prosecutor to task and effectively says there's a statute here, there's a law here that governs how these things are supposed to happen, and you didn't follow it, and now I'm going to make you follow it.
So Smollett's deal was thrown out, and a special prosecutor was named with the legal authority to prosecute Smollett. So you may be thinking, how could you prosecute Jussie again for the same crime? Isn't that covered by double jeopardy? Now, for those of you who don't know, double jeopardy is found in the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, and it essentially prohibits someone from being prosecuted twice by the state for substantially the same crime that occurred at the same time. And Jussie's team's argument is simple, right? Jussie was prosecuted, he forfeited his bond, he did community service in exchange for that dismissal. Jussie's lawyers are arguing that both the state and Jussie had an agreement, and that Jussie fulfilled his part of that agreement. And now the state shouldn't be able to renege on the deal after Jussie has done the community service and paid the $10,000. But there is a problem. See, when Kim Foxx recused herself, her office lost all legal authority to make any deals, to prosecute Jussie under the law. So when it comes to double jeopardy, Jussie was technically never really in any jeopardy from Kim Foxx. She never legally prosecuted him, and therefore he was never punished technically by the state for his crimes. It was all made up. And since Kim Foxx didn't have any legal authority to enter into any deal with Jussie, then any contract argument is void, right? She didn't have the authority to make that deal. She recused herself, and under state law, it's over. So here's how the judge ruled on the double jeopardy issue previously.
In the actor's case. In a 21-page decision, Judge Tooman said the problem boiled down to Kim Foxx's decision to appoint this man, Cook County State's Attorney Joseph McGatz, to take her place after she recused herself. Simply put, That was wrong. She had no authority to do that. She appointed McGatz to, quote, a fictitious office having no legal existence. He said a special prosecutor is needed to, quote, restore the public's confidence in the integrity of our criminal justice system.
So Kim Foxx did everything possible to help Jussie Smollett out of this situation, creating a fake office with no legal authority to prosecute him, giving him a sweetheart deal. What more could she have done? So at sentencing, when Jussie Smollett was prosecuted by the special prosecutor's office who had the legal authority to prosecute him, so Jussie Smollett was prosecuted again, this time with the special prosecutor who had the legal authority to make any deals and prosecute Smollett under state law. Now, Jussie Smollett's defense team is arguing it's not his fault that the state prosecutor violated the law and that they didn't have any authority to prosecute him. How would he know that? This easily violates double jeopardy. He actually is being punished twice. Here it is.
The next issue I'd like to address is the double jeopardy. And we had briefed this before. The court's very familiar with our position on this, but just in brief to highlight a few of our points. The double jeopardy clause does not just prohibit double prosecutions, it also prohibits double punishment. And to punish somebody twice for the same thing is a violation of the Fifth Amendment. And here, Mr. Smollett was clearly punished in the prior criminal proceedings by the imposition of a criminal penalty. Now, certain people may disagree with the severity of that punishment. They may not think that was a just result, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he was criminally punished. And even the Office of the Special Prosecutor, at the outset of the case, when they filed the new indictment, they issued on February 20th, 2020, something called an information release. And in that information release, Dan Webb himself acknowledged that Mr. Smollett had been punished during the prior criminal proceeding. And I quote him when I say that Mr. Webb stated that the only punishment for Mr. Smollett was to perform 15 hours of community service and requiring Mr. Smollett to forfeit his $10,000 bond as restitution to the city of Chicago. Those are Mr. Webb's words, not mine. And he said the only punishment. So he acknowledged that Mr. Smollett had been punished. But again, he wasn't satisfied with that punishment. And that's exactly what the double jeopardy clause is meant to prevent, second guessing of one prosecutor's discretion by another prosecutor.
Now, obviously, the thing that she kind of leaves out there is that the prosecutor who initially made the deal has to at least have authority to prosecute. If the person doesn't have authority to prosecute, then they couldn't make a deal, and you can't punish someone if you don't have authority to punish them. So Smollett's team is appealing, claiming that Foxx's deal that gave Jussie the smack on the wrist was a good deal, even though they didn't have any authority, any legal authority, to make that deal. And really understand what happened here. Foxx violated state law. She made up a fake position in her office, and she advised Jussie's family how to avoid criminal liability by staying consistent. Do you think the appeals court is going to rule in Jussie's favor, saying that the original deal with Kim Foxx is a good deal? Or do you think the court's going to rule that Foxx had no authority to make that original deal and Jussie must serve the remainder of his jail sentence? Let me know how you feel in the comment section. Let me know how you come out. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.